Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Donovan Carter. I'm with the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program at the University of Florida. I'm here today in Washington, D.C. on August 28th, 2021. I'm here with...
My name is Judy Mojarrad, and
I'm Mehrdad Mojarrad.
Patrick McGrath.
I'm Alissa Noelle.
I am Sohail Mojarrad's mother, and unfortunately he was taken from us, murdered by the Raleigh Police Department, by a officer of that department on April 20th, 2019.
In Raleigh, North Carolina?
Pardon?
In Raleigh, North Carolina?
In Raleigh, North Carolina. Yeah, he was less than a mile from home, walking home, and a policeman wanted to stop him. Did not have his camera on, had his car parked in the opposite direction. There's no dash cam footage, no footage from any buildings of what happened, and no police, what do you call that camera?
Body cam?
Body cam. So we only know what the policeman said happened, but it does not match up with the autopsy at all.
Yeah, I guess I should add that when he was shot with 2 bullets first, with a pause, and then the guy unloaded a clip completely, and then reloaded and kept on shooting. So overall, there was 11 bullets that shot at him. 8 of it hit him. Most of it was, actually all of it was not to his front, and they were either hitting him on the side, or I think the closest was the one that hit his shoulder on the side. And at the time of the accident, it seems like the cops immediately secured the place. The stories we heard were that the entire Raleigh Police Department seemed like they invaded the whole shopping plaza where he was shot. And it took them a good 5 hours before they notified the mother, even though the chief of police lived across the house where her son lived at the time. And she knew my son. Actually, everybody in the neighborhood knew my son because of his mental illness. He would be at the neighbor's house knocking on their door when he was having seizures, asking for help or offering help. He was one of the most loving people you could meet. His friends would attest that he was literally, he would take his shirt off to give it to someone who might need it or who he felt might need it. Often his stuff was being taken by some folks, and when I would tell him why your computer is taken or why your equipment for music, because he loved music, was taken, he would say, well, it's probably somebody who needed it more. That was his thing. He just never really wanted to think people were bad. So he had always a reason why someone would even abuse him. He would have a reason, well, because he had a bad childhood, or he was abused by his parents, or he was one of those guys that always saw the good in people. And I think in the first rally that his friends organized after he was murdered by the cop, I remember one guy going to the officers and saying, boy, this guy would be the guy who invites you to dinner if you were hungry anytime, even though he didn't have a whole lot to offer at the time. So he was an amazing kid, very amazing kid. But he suffered with mental illness for a good chunk of the last 10 years of his life. And I think the entire system failed him badly. The mental health system here is atrocious. It seems like it's more of a trial and error, play with the victims, just see if anything could make him turn into what he would call a zombie at best. And he often had reactions that were so adverse, like he would get locked jaw, or he would get seizures, massive seizures. And but he survived. I mean, he was a survivor, and 7 years to the day he was killed, literally to the day, on April 20th, 2012. He was a pickup truck literally ran over his head, and I remember when I asked the doctor what was his prognosis, he said, "We don't know if he's going to make it." As a matter of fact, the chaplain called me at the time to say that he was in the hospital. But when I saw him, I said, he's going to come out of it. Because I knew he was a fighter for life. And he always had this amazing positivity about him. Even in the depth of his illness, he would be the one consoling his friends.
Yeah, it's just really tragic that this happened to him. It's happened to a lot of people, and here at this gathering and protest today, my heart's ripped open again for ourselves, and just to hear all the other stories of people who have lost family members because of police brutality, because police have this stupid qualified immunity law where they can basically do anything they want, and they have been doing it for years, and just say, oh, I was afraid for my life, so I had to shoot them, or I had to kill them, or whatever. That kind of shit has to stop. Sorry for my language.
No, it's okay.
And it was really sad that our son could survive having his head run over by a pickup truck and then not survive having a mental illness because the Raleigh Police Department assassinated him. One officer. He said that our son came at him with a knife, and with each step towards him, he shot. In reality, one bullet was here, and the rest are on the sides and the back. So his story does not match up. And why he had to use 2 clips of 45 hollow point bullets is beyond me. One of those would have been enough to kill anybody if you had to kill somebody, but he did not have to murder, I should say again, because the police told us it was a justified shooting, a justified killing, and it was not. It was a murder assassination. You can talk about it.
I'm Alyssa. So was one of my best friends. I met him about 5 or 7 years, I think, before this happened, and we just hit it off right off the bat. I also struggle with mental health issues, and we always had each other's backs, and he was just one of the most radically loving and caring and imaginative and beautiful people that I ever met. And as his parents were saying, he survived so much, and it always brought tears to my eyes when he was still here to see how much they love and care about him, and how much So cared about them too, and everybody that he came into contact with. And I just want justice for him and all the families that have to live through this senseless killing that needs to end.
Yeah, Sohail was my cousin, and he was, always a good, loving person, like everyone's saying. And he got me into playing the guitar and growing my hair out. I always thought he was a very cool guy. And it's just really unfortunate and messed up, and I want to see the police officer prosecuted and sent to jail, like I'm sure we all do, because it's, messed up that they get this kind of immunity and that it keeps happening over and over again. So, that's all.
So, what do you all want the world to know about Sohail?
I think the most important thing for me is the fact that he saw the
Turn a little close to your mouth.
He saw the good in people. I mean, I remember constantly trying to convince him that there are people who have bad intentions, or they don't have the best in mind for him or for others. But he would always say, no, that's not it. We have to make it better. He was the one who would actually, like, when he saw injustice or unfairness from even childhood, he would go up and stand up to bullies. He was a little kid when, I think first time I remember vividly now, he was maybe around 6 or 7, and he came home and he was crying because this bully was threatening a group of kids he was hanging out with, and he was harassing some kids in the group. He stood up to the guy, and of course the guy was bigger, beat him up, but his friends came up and said, yeah, he was trying to stop it because this guy was harassing us. That was from his childhood. And as he grew up, he never lost that compassion and empathy. I'd say he's probably one of those people that I have seen, maybe the empathy was so much that it scared me. You know, it worried me because constantly he was having to fend for those who really didn't, in my mind, didn't deserve it. But I learned from that. I learned that he was right. There is some good. Even the worst of us, there is a place where you can touch. And I really believe what he was telling me. Of course, I wouldn't do it the same way. He would go out. I remember we were in the 7-Eleven one time getting some things, and he went to this group of people who were at the register and started hugging everybody. He was just a hugging guy. And there was a biker there, and this guy was just not ready for a hug. But he insisted, no, we gotta have a hug. So that was him. So that's what I want the world to know, that what this officer took from us, I think it was what would be good in all of us. And I hope it stays with the rest of us, that there is something to be said about that. But unfortunately, right now, the way things are, the policing in this country is perhaps one of the most atrocious I've seen around the world. And I have been to other places, and I don't think there is, outside of going to a country like a third world country with a pretty brutal regime, you don't see anything like this. And I mean, I travel to Middle East and other places, so I think something here has to give. This is just not the way to treat your own people.
Mom, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, that's basically the same. He was a very loving child, a very loving person growing up, and he did always try to make peace everywhere between people. And if he were alive today, he would be here even if he didn't know anybody that had been shot and murdered by the police or murdered in any other way, because he wanted justice and equality for everybody. That's how he was, and he was very loving. And it's kind of funny, it tickled me that I was thinking about in high school, he told me he joined the SGA, and when I was in high school, that stood for Student Government Association. And I asked him about it, and he said, no, it's the Straight and Gay Alliance. And I was like, oh, well, that's good too. So he was very welcoming to everybody. A really nice guy.
Friend?
I share this.
Okay.
Cousin? You know what do you want to know? What do you want? That's it?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not sure what this.
That's all right. Thank you guys for your time. Justice for Sohail. Justice for Sohail.
Thank you.
Thank you.